The Ross Owen Show is sponsored by Holmasters, Airdrie Supporters Trust, and D-Day Historian.
Black Sky Radio.
Joining me now on the phone is the lead singer of my favourite Scottish band, Travis. They're currently in the middle of a tour. Fran Healy is here with us. Fran, welcome to the show.
It's lovely to be on the show. How's
the tour going? You're still in Mexico?
We are in Mexico City right now, and the tour's great. We played 2 nights ago in Mexico City. We were in Guadalajara before that, and Monterrey.
Now, first of all, you live in Germany now, so I assume you know what Laurel and Hardy are called in Germany.
Of course, Dick and Doof.
Dick and Doof, well done.
Thick and stupid.
They've got so many different names in different countries, and I was delighted when I found out that you were a Laurel and Hardy fan. Where did the passion for the boys come from?
Well, when we were kids, they would show Laurel and Hardy all the time on BBC Two. Mm-hmm. Every day, like around about, 5, half 5. It was kind of in the Harold Lloyd slot.
That's right.
On BBC Two, and so I sort of, and my granda as well. It was his generation, so he was a massive Laurel and Hardy fan, and it was just part of your daily television sort of diet. There's Laurel and Hardy, and they were at that point, I think, the funniest thing on telly. It's way better than all of the television that was on, the box back then, and so I watched tons of it, and I've been a fan forever.
Now, people often say to me, when you're introducing Laurel and Hardy to kids of today, that they think that they're going to be put off by the fact that they're in black and white. But what I keep telling people is, when we were younger, I'm from the same generation as you. When we were younger, TV was in colour. It didn't bother us that they were in black and white. So why should it bother kids now? Is it because there's big epic blockbusters in the cinemas now? And
well, a lot of kids freak out at black and white, but what they do is kind of beyond what colour it is, or what black and white colour or whatever. I was just thinking there when you were talking, like, so when my granda turned me on to Laurel and Hardy, we would walk from Hamilton Hill, we'd walk down over the Forth and Clyde Canal down towards what is now sort of the Cowcaddens area of Glasgow, and walk towards St George's Cross. And on the way to St George's Cross, there was a theatre, and we would pass that theatre, and my granda's like, Laurel from Laurel and Hardy worked in there when he was a young man. And this was true because Laurel's father, I think, ran the theatre or something.
Yes, that's right, Yeah, his father used to run theatres in Glasgow, and of course he wanted Stan to work in the theatre with him rather than on the stage, which led to Stan, as you know, it led to Stan stealing his dad's trousers, cutting them up to make some sort of costume. He turned up at the Panoptic and got himself a gig there, and his dad was in the audience and was horrified to see his trousers all cut up. But that was the big turning point for Stan. Now, what's the appeal of the Laurel and Hardy films for you? I mean, is it the slapstick? Is it the one-liners?
Well, as a kid, you just watch and they're funny. It's just, as a child, you watch it and it's funny, and not just funny. It's like deeply funny. It's got this thing about it that touches you sort of deeper than most stuff, and it's a combination of the choreography, the slapstick, the acting is brilliant, the deadpanning directly to the screen, that suddenly removes the fourth wall. But you don't know all these things when you're a kid. You're just laughing because it's incredibly funny on one level, on the surface. But then as you get older, you start to appreciate how brilliantly written it was, and then you know, with the internet, you start to read about Laurel and what a genius he was. And I think he was kind of like he sort of lived in the shadow of Chaplin a little bit. He was his understudy, I believe, at one point, and he sort of lived in that shadow. But in a weird way, I feel Stan was way funnier. I think by living in the shadow, he got to develop some other sort of style of physical comedy, and he sort of, it took him ages, it would seem, to actually get a break and to find his lifelong partner in Babe.
Yeah, and it worked out incredibly well for them in the end. Now, as a songwriter, have you ever paid homage to Laurel and Hardy within one of your songs?
No, never. I haven't paid homage to them ever, but the interesting thing is, like, when I had my own son, we don't watch a lot of telly in the house because it's just rubbish. I would, because of YouTube, you could watch, like, little things. So I would, when he was really small, I would show him Ivor the Engine. That was his first telly, and he loved that. And then he went on to Button Moon, and then Inspector Gadget. And then one day I was watching a Laurel and Hardy thing, and he came up and he's like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Laurel and Hardy." And I did the old, "It's in black and white. You might not like it." And he sat and he just loved it. And so, and I had the box set, with all of the Laurel and Hardys, and he just ate the whole thing. He's seen more Laurel and Hardy than I have.
Wow. How old is he now?
He's 10 now, and this is when he was like 7 or 8.
Right.
Which I think can only be a good thing for him to be seeing such
absolutely, because I mean, this is one of the questions, and one of the things we're talking about is, do you think it's important that we keep the memory of Laurel and Hardy alive for future generations?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think it's our job as fathers and as grown-ups to just pass it on. And I think if something is great, then it'll be easy to pass on, and it'll stay around forever. And you'll find, I mean, nowadays, Laurel and Hardy, I mean, I believe it was something to do with the licensing of those is it a two-reeler? Yeah, it was a two-reeler. Opened it up so they were allowed to show it on telly loads, on TV in the 70s and 80s, and they actually got that they had a sort of comeback when they were all dead by that point, and that's when I started to see it, in the 80s when I was a kid.
The big revival.
And I think the thing is, if something is that good, it won't ever go away, because it endures, because there's something about it that's timeless, and I think we don't need to worry, actually. I mean, as long as the grown-ups pass it on to the next generation, because funny is funny, and I really don't think you can get much funnier than Laurel and Hardy.
I think you nailed it. Funny is funny, and slapstick is timeless. Now, Laurel and Hardy made it to number 2 in the charts with Trail of the Lonesome Pine. Can you remember who kept them off the number 1 spot? Do you know?
I've no idea.
I'll give you a clue. Okay, Laurel and Hardy were number 2 in the charts in 1975. And the song that kept them off the charts was a massive, massive hit, a classic.
ABBA? No, it wasn't ABBA. Was it ABBA?
It was Queen.
Queen with what?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh my God, that's crazy. The Queen were at number 1 and Laurel and Hardy were at number 2.
Aye, the Queen kept, Bohemian Rhapsody kept Laurel and Hardy off the number 1 spot back in 1975, and it was thanks to John Peel that they got in the charts in the first place, because he kept playing them on his show.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So,
that's fantastic. I didn't know he was a fan.
Oh, massive fan, and Ken Bruce, who's now doing basically the same show, is also a fan. So maybe we should get Ken Bruce to start playing it, and maybe we can get it back to number 1. We'll do one of those mad internet campaigns to get them back to stop X Factor again or something. I don't know. But
the thing, going back to with Clay, my son. We did a bit of a pilgrimage, and we went to LA, and we went to the bottom of we walked the music box steps.
Oh, I've been there. It's fantastic, isn't it? An experience.
It's amazing, because it hasn't changed. I mean, the buildings around it, but there's the steps. There's and it's night. You feel these guys were here. They were just like standing here, and we're standing here, and it was a total.
That's all I could think about when I was there. And of course you have to go up them, don't you? You have to take that walk up and down the stairs, and it's an incredible experience. But now my final question to you, Fran, is do you have a favourite Laurel and Hardy movie, or do you have any favourite scenes?
There's the whole. It's a really. When they're in the sawmill, is it Busybodies or is it?
That's the one.
No, it's not. Is it?
Yeah.
So that the whole thing is, I think it's like a masterpiece. Just the way it builds to that final climax, and there's that from the it's all kind of just building blocks up to the point where where he gets his he sits him down in the chair, and he's got the brush. Bristles on his chin, and that whole, from the moment he sits him down and starts to soap him up with the thing, and him looking at the camera, and then he planes off the bristles.
Yeah.
Going through the tubes.
Yes.
Thing,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
he's caught, and then the sort of fan starts to hit his bum. It's like there's a whole. It's maybe about a minute long, or maybe more. But it's I think it's kind of flawless.
And there's that great line in it. Why, that's a blueprint of the Boulder Dam.
Yeah. There's so much. There's also that really it kind of annoyed me a little bit. But the This Is Your Life.
Oh, that was horrible because it was live and Stan didn't want to do it.
And but they had them, and they had them there on like false pretenses that they were going to get a film deal and things.
Yeah, that's horrible, isn't it?
And it's because every artist, you make your art and you want some validation, and especially if you've had the back has been turned on you, and you found out that you go to Britain and you realize, oh my God, people love us, as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do this to them. I thought, oh my God, it's one of the most humiliating things. It's a terrible thing to see.
Stan was a consummate professional. He always liked to prepare things before he did them. So for that, you'll notice when you watch it, Stan doesn't say very much at all. And it's very awkward, isn't it, to watch? It's very difficult to watch. The presenter I thought he was rude to Oliver Hardy at times, calling him fat and things like that.
I know, it was awful. But I was just remembering another thing that I found funny. I don't know why it always sticks in my head, but when I can't remember the name of the film, but when they work in the horn factory.
Oh yeah, that's Saps at Sea.
Saps at Sea. Right?
Hornophobia.
Horns to the left of me. Horns to the right.
That was James Finlayson's last Laurel and Hardy film.
Yeah, the wee guy that did the brilliant double takes.
That's him, yeah.
So there's a line in that one that is that just stays with me, was when they're on the boat. They finally get on the boat, and there's a goat, because they've been told he's got to drink goat milk.
Narcissus is the name of the goat.
Narcissus, what's its name? Narcissus. I mean, come on. It's like, the really, really super, super clever, and really sort of, and probably lost on so many people, but it didn't really matter. But I think that's what makes them special. I mean, I just love them so much. I mean, I could talk about them all day. So yeah.
Well, Fran, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about Laurel and Hardy, because I know you're very busy at the moment. But good luck with the forthcoming gigs, especially Glastonbury as well. You got that coming up, and Tea in the Park as well. You're coming home
Tea
for that.
in the Park. That's good for us. That's the one. It's Tea in the Park is always been our festival. We played at the first one, and so can't wait.
Thanks again for helping us keep the memory of Laurel and Hardy alive.
Nice one, Ross. Cheers, mate.
All the best, Fran.
See you, man.
Cheers, bye.
Black Sky Radio.